Hello everyone. I'm very happy that Rebecca and I are here again. We made our first video like a couple of days ago and I watched it, and one of the things I noticed was that I hadn't smiled a lot. Maybe I was like feeling nervous. So today I will try to smile a lot more. So I'm really excited about this series of videos that we're going to start making today. And they're going to be real short, like 10, 15, at the most 20 minutes. And I have decided that I want to talk about some of the most important challenges that we face as human beings. And I faced it too as a human being, and I shared it with Rebecca, and she agreed. And so these are going to be, the first video we're making right now is about emotions. I think most people really struggle with emotions because a lot of us grew up with contradictory messages about emotions. So a lot of us struggle with some of the emotions that as human beings we can experience. Don't you agree? Yes, I think so. And then the next topic is I want to talk about why so many of us feel unhappy from time to time, and what's the difference between happiness and joy. And the next video we want to make today, I hope we get to all of this today, we're making a lot of short videos today, is the topic of denial, why so many people are in denial about their feelings and about their struggles. Another topic of interest that I want to make a video is about loneliness, which seems to be very universal. You know, like I don't know of a single human being who never experiences loneliness, whether they're married or single, they're raising children, their kids have grown up and left home. Another topic of interest is the topic of boredom, you know. And also another one is denial. Why so many people are in denial about what they're really experiencing. Do you think these are good topics to make videos?
Definitely, I think they're very good topics. We each experience these things and don't often know what to do with those emotions. And so this is a great opportunity to learn about that.
Okay, all right. So let's start. The first one today, the first video is going to be on the topic of emotions. So let's pretend that this is actually a therapeutic session, okay? And you've come to me because you're struggling with emotions. And so I like to ask you some questions, Rebecca. Okay, very good. Okay, so the first question I have for you is, what is your relationship with your emotions?
Ooh,
And be real truthful and honest.
okay. I hope that my emotions don't control me and that I deal with them properly and don't act on emotion or make decisions on emotion. And I am learning and thinking more and more about how to deal with those emotions. Oftentimes, we want to suppress emotion and not give it a real place. And so I'd like to learn how to manage those emotions without acting out inappropriately.
All right. So each of these questions that I ask, I like you to reflect on it too. Okay. And I want to talk to you about what is my relationship with my emotions. Even though I've been studying psychology for the last 42 years and I've gone through so many different therapeutic approaches, I think for a long time I really struggled with emotions of anger, sadness, fear, disappointment, shame, belittlement, guilt. And I think what I used to do with them was I used to turn them into depression. But since I have been using faster emotional focus transformation, faster EFT, in the last 1 year, and I've cleared so many traumatic memories and painful experiences, I don't do depression anymore.
Thank
And
God.
yeah, and I'm so grateful for that. And I'm learning to express them in a healthy way. And so one of the things that I want to show us today is how we can experience emotions, and instead of allowing them to control us, that we release them. But before we do that, I want to raise a few other questions. Um, what do you do with your emotions? Like, for example, let's say anger. What do you do with your emotion of anger?
I don't like the idea of being angry, and so I tell myself I'm not angry, and I tell myself I'm hurt, and then I suppress it and hide it.
Okay. What I used to do with anger was that I used to blow up, and I used to become. Um, Sometimes I would like act like my father, like I would blow up and then I would withdraw and not talk to the person. And years ago, when I was studying at the University of Hawaii, working on my second master's in social work, I took a course in anger, and the visiting professor gave us a questionnaire, and he asked in that questionnaire, how do you express your anger? And he introduced the concept of hot anger and cold anger. Do you understand the difference?
No, I've never heard that.
Okay, so hot anger is when we become aggressive, and we can do a series of things, like we can throw things, break things, like if there are things on the table, we can like, with our hand, throw them all on the ground, we can yell and scream, we can swear, we can hit, we can punch, slap, kick, pull hair. Um, so all these things are like real aggressive,
Violent and physical.
very violent and very aggressive, and they intimidate the person who is like it's directed.
Right, I can see that.
Yeah, and then cold anger is when we are upset with what the person has said or done, and then we withdraw from them. We don't talk to them. We don't return their phone calls. We don't return their emails. Um, if we live under the same roof, we don't talk to them. We pretend like they don't exist. Or if you're sitting and having a meal with 2 or 3 or 4 friends or family members, the person we're angry with, we don't even look at in their direction. So like we will talk to other people, smile, interact, and we leave that person out in the cold, and that person, of course, feels rejected. So both, and that's what I learned, because my dad and mom were so angry, and they expressed their anger in an abusive way. I had made a decision when I was like around 16, 17 years old that I wasn't, actually I made that decision when I was about 15 and a half, that I wasn't going to be an angry person like my mom and dad, and I wasn't going to be angry. That's it, finished. I'm finished with anger. So I had turned my anger into cold anger. So I would withdraw from people. If someone hurt me, I would just cut them off. Yeah. So it's very important that if you're listening to this YouTube video, that you ask yourself, what do you do with your emotions? And anger is just one of them. Other emotions like sadness. What do we do with sadness? What do we do with fear when we feel fearful? And in my experience and working with myself and my clients, I see that depression is an umbrella under which there is sadness, there is anger, there is fear, there is shame, there is guilt, there is disappointment, there is regret, remorse. There are just so many emotions under the umbrella of depression. Okay? So I will make a video about depression, and when we get to that video, I'll talk more about how to release these emotions so you don't have to choose depression as a way to cope with all these emotions. So the next question I want to ask is, why do we do what we do with our emotions?
I would guess, based on some things you have said, that it comes from our learning. We've learned these responses modeling of other people, through
especially our parents.
Our parents and our
Because
siblings.
they were our
and
first
friends.
teachers.
Yes.
Yeah, and our siblings learned it from our parents.
So basically, it's the people who raised us, whether it's our parents, grandparents, whoever raised you, they became our first teachers. Yeah. And when we are very young as children, we put our parents or our caretakers on a pedestal and we think they're like godlike. Like they know everything.
That's true. You modelize them.
Right, exactly. And then as we become teenagers, then suddenly we think our parents don't know anything. Do you know the joke about this family? Their son grows up and he's a teenager, and of course, in the first 11, 12 years, he worshipped his parents and he thought his parents knew everything. And then when he became a teenager, he drastically changed his idea and he said he would tell his mom and dad, "Don't tell me what to do because you don't know anything." So of course they were so upset, and then several years passed, and he became a young adult, and he became more aware of himself. And then one day he was with his parents, and they were having a conversation, and he was actually listening. And then he told his mom and dad, "I can't believe how much you have learned." In the last few weeks, since I had my awareness, so they went from his shit list. Sorry, they went from his list of not knowing anything to suddenly knowing things. All right, so the things that we do with our emotions, they are learned. Okay, okay. So, like for example, if we grew up in a family where in our family um, sadness was not allowed, pain was not allowed. Like if you hurt yourself, you were not supposed to talk about it.
No reaction.
Yeah, you were supposed to man up, like be a man, be a strong woman. So what did we do with those emotions? What did we do with the pain that we were experiencing, either emotionally or physically? So most people bury it, yeah, and those are called trapped emotions. And we're going to talk about it. So it's important to know that what we learned, okay, so that we can release it and let it go. Now, the question I want to raise is that for most people who haven't done their emotional healing work and they're in denial about it, and to be in denial is to pretend that nothing happened, that things were not as bad. So, with emotions, we must take into consideration that either they control us, okay, or we control our emotions. And the best way to control emotions is not to suppress them, which means to like pretend that they don't exist. And it's not to deny them, and it's not to repress them. Repress means we do it automatically. We don't even think about it. Like we know, I'm not going to be able to handle sadness. So as soon as sadness shows up, it goes to the unconscious mind. I can see that. Yeah. So controlling our emotions means releasing them. And this technique, that's their emotional focus transformation, is a very powerful technique for helping us to release our emotions. Now, another question I want to raise. What do you think are your thoughts and beliefs about emotions? And you don't need to answer them. I just want you to reflect on that. Okay? What are your thoughts and beliefs about emotions? If you had to say it in one sentence, what would you say? Do you think emotions are positive or negative, good or bad?
I think we're given emotions. It's part of our natural makeup. So I think it's supposed to be a positive thing. It's just how we let them reign within us, whether they control us or we control them.
Okay. I think when I look at the way I was raised, certain emotions were good and certain emotions were negative. Like, for example, happiness was a good emotion, joy was a good emotion, hope, peace was good emotions, but um, girls were not supposed to show anger. They were supposed to be sweet. Um, boys Boys were taught from a very young age not to cry, that crying was sissy, it was a sign of weakness, it was meant for women because women were weaker, the weaker sex. So I think we need to think, reflect on this question and see uh, how were we educated or brainwashed about emotions, you know? And the next question I want to raise is, uh, where do you where do you think your thoughts and beliefs come from? Your thoughts and beliefs about emotions.
Probably again something a learned response.
Yeah, we learned it from our parents, from our caretakers, from our role models. Yes, our teachers, grandparents, parents. And this is where the problem is for a lot of us, and that's why I believe that everyone is emotionally wounded to some degree. Some people might be 5% wounded, some might be 20, some might be 50, 70% wounded. And I think it's because our parents were emotionally wounded. And their grandparents, our grandparents were emotionally wounded. And if you could go back 10,000 generations, we'll see that most parents have no awareness that children have an emotional body, that we human beings have emotional body. Don't you agree?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So the good news is that we can be the first generation to create healing in ourselves. And I'm really proud and really happy with myself that in the last 42 years I haven't given up in my search to find ways to get more healthy emotionally. And the other question that I want to raise is, what purpose do you think emotions serve?
No idea.
Okay, what I've come to realize is that, for example, the emotion of anger, if we didn't have the ability to get angry, then when someone was unjust and cruel and abusive, we wouldn't be able to experience that. You know, like we would just take it like, oh, this is normal. To be abused and neglected and treated with injustice and cruelty is just okay. So the fact that we can get angry, it is our soul's response to telling us that what's happening is not fair, it's not just, and we need to take better care of ourselves. Or, for example, the emotion of sadness. When do we feel sad?
I think when we're disappointed.
When we're disappointed, or when we lose someone that is dear to us. Yeah. So sadness, kind of, or when we miss someone. Yeah. So each of the emotions, they serve a purpose, and I'd like you to reflect on that and ask yourself, what does, like for example, fear. What's the purpose of fear? Is to protect us. Yeah, to ask us to pay attention. Yeah. Because if we had no fear, then we could hurt ourselves real bad. Yeah. All right. Now, the other question that I want to raise is, now, you know, because we all were raised in different families, and each family had their own value system about emotions, we learned in our family of origin and in our culture also, because you know cultures have also values about certain emotions, and certain emotions are good and certain emotions are bad. Therefore, we all learned to express the emotions, the array of emotions, through certain emotions. So, for example, let's say you grew up, or we grew up in a family where, for example, sadness and fear and disappointment and pain were not good emotions. They made, we were taught that they made you weak and sissy, and um, they devalued you, right? So, but let's say in our family we learned that anger was okay. Okay. So then when we feel fear and sadness and disappointment and an array of emotions, how do you think we're going to express those emotions?
Through anger.
Exactly. Exactly. And so a lot of people, that's what they do. They choose whatever emotion was permitted, or they think it's a strong emotion because anger makes you strong, makes you feel strong, whereas sadness makes you feel very weak. Yeah, like when we are depressed, we don't feel powerful. But when we are angry, and we feel powerful, but it's false pride. I mean, false power. It's not true power. Okay? Actually, do you know of all the emotions, which one is the strongest? No, gentleness. Really? Yeah, gentleness is the strongest emotion. Yeah, yeah. Because a person who's gentle, they are centered. Like imagine healing to such and reaching such a place that no matter what happens, that you can maintain your gentleness and you can respond with love and gentleness. All right? Yeah. All right. So the last thing that I want to discuss for us is so depending on how we were raised and what values we were taught about emotions, then we can channel all the emotions that we experience through one or two emotions. So some people are angry, so they're all the time angry. Like their energy when you're around them, their energy is an energy of anger. Like they deal with every situation in their life with anger. Like instead of showing sadness, they show anger. Instead of showing fear, they show anger. Now, some people, the dominant emotion that you see in them is sadness. So with every situation, they get depressed. Yeah, they feel hopeless.
All of their negative emotions go through sadness.
Exactly. And they choose, and this is done unconsciously, they're not aware. So the first step is to bring it into consciousness. Okay? Or, so then everybody knows them as a sad person, And some people, they express all this array of emotions through fear. So then to everything, they respond with fear. So then they become a fearful person. Now, is it like a person who chooses to be an angry person or a sad person or a fearful person? Are they really enjoying life?
I can't imagine.
No. They are like, they're shortchanging themselves. So the work that we're going to do is to help people to release these limiting beliefs and thoughts that they have about themselves.
So there is hope that,
Oh,
that
definitely.
we can all change
Definitely.
to channel better emotions.
Yes, definitely. And so there are different ways that we express all these different emotions. And these different, do you know what is the power of these emotions? These emotions that we consider bad, like we consider anger bad, sadness bad, fear bad, right? Certain emotions we consider them bad. Okay, so our emotions can cause us to self-sabotage ourselves. Do you know what that means? What does that mean to you?
It's like we trip ourselves up. It's like we turn a negative into more negative.
Right. And we create stumbling blocks in our path.
Okay.
Yeah, like when you self-sabotage, it's like you say, I want to go forward, okay? But you do everything not to go forward. You say, oh, I have so many dreams. I know I'm intelligent. I'm this, I'm that. But when you look at the person's life, you don't see a happy person. Yeah. They may be successful in the financial area or in the academic area, but in relationships, they're not very successful. Yeah. So, what are some ways that we self-sabotage? Do you have any idea?
Maybe using the but a lot and saying, well, I would do it, but
Yeah.
maybe we procrastinate and put off for another day. We turn back on the TV or go back to the computer rather than doing something positive.
Or watch a lot of TV,
Yes.
or eat for emotional reasons, or go and sleep when your body doesn't need more rest, or turn to any kind of addiction, whether it's sex or drugs or alcohol or overeating, shopping, watching a lot of TV, gambling, you name it. So these are different ways that self-sabotage shows up. Like you said, procrastination is one, becoming a perfectionist, expecting like no matter how you strive and how much you excel, it's never good enough because you have to be perfect because that's what you were taught. Making assumptions without checking it out with other people, lying to ourselves, lying to others, denying how we really feel, pretending, pretending like we're happy and we're really miserable. Yeah, putting a smile on our face, being really friendly, but inside like we're dying. Manipulating others, placating others, and withholding love and affection. So now that we have kind of talked about emotions, in the next video, because I promised that I don't want to make these videos real long, in the next video, which is going to follow this one, so this is video number 2. Video number 3, I'm going to show you how you can use faster emotional focus transformation to start releasing some of these emotions. Okay, and we're going to start maybe, do you think we should start with denial or unhappiness or from loneliness or boredom? What do you think?
Let's go with loneliness.
Okay,
Let's
all right.
fix that problem.
Okay, because everybody experiences, including me. Okay, all right. So we'll see you in the next video in a few seconds.
Very good.